Welcome everyone to the games people play.
Looking for a redirect, but loose in front of the goal.
Does anything in particular stand out? Is there any?
Run it to the end zone for the touchdown.
This is Bernie Corbett saying, play the game well. Welcome everyone to Season 1, Episode 14 of the Games People Play. I'm your host, Bernie Corbett. He was both a nasty boy and an Emerald City bullpen icon during his eventful 14-year Major League career. Today, we continue our conversation with former Major League pitcher Norm Charlton. But it certainly is an occupational hazard for the breakdown of a Major League pitcher, and unfortunately, you had that experience with your elbow injury in 1993.
Yeah, well, the 92 season was the result of a breakdown because Rob Dibble was supposed to be our closer. And he broke down in spring training with some shoulder problems. I saved 25 games before the break. I think either 24 or 25 before the break. Come back from the All-Star and Lou says, we're going to hand Rob the ball. Okay, I'm good with that. You know, we're still roommates. We're good. He's ready to go. And I think to this day, it was one of those stats that I do know. I think to this day that we're the only tandem to have 25 saves apiece on the same team.
Same team, the same bullpen.
Yeah, the same bullpen. So I saved 26, and then he saved 25, and he took the ball after the break. And then Lou went to Seattle in 93 and traded for me. And I think the Reds had the option. I think Lou wanted myself or Dibs, and I think he gave the Reds the option. I'll take either one of them. And they kept Dibs and sent me over there. And then I blew up in August of 93. Tommy John came back, was just about ready to get signed with Philadelphia the next year. 94 was just about ready to pitch, and we went on strike and canceled the World Series. So came back in 95, pretty healthy and ready to go. But I mean, you can go throw bullpens and do all that all you want. Nothing prepares you for a major league season like pitching in a major league season. So. I had some bonuses coming up in Philadelphia at the All-Star break, and we weren't going anywhere. I was starting to pitch better, but there was no real reason for them to keep me. They released me, and Seattle signed me 3 or 4 days later, and had a great end of the year with Seattle.
You certainly did, and the whole experience, the bigger picture, if you will, as somebody that was obviously right in the heat of that race down the stretch. A team that was 11 and a half back with 36 games left, and you literally ran down the Angels to win that division. It was the first year of the wild card. I think Jay Buhner was famously quoted as blank the wild card, let's win the division. And that's exactly what you guys went out and did down the stretch. It was a remarkable stretch run that you were part of.
Yeah, it started not coincidentally shortly after I got there. We started our run 1st of August. We had August to September, and we were pretty good ways back, and we started winning ball games that we shouldn't win. In typical Seattle fashion, people started leaving the game before it was over. They don't do that anymore. And there was a vote whether to build a stadium for Seattle, and the vote got turned down. And then there was another vote after we did what we did, and luckily for Seattle, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that keeping baseball in the Northwest, keeping it there in Seattle. But we had a pretty good run, and I think I was pitcher of the month in September, which is almost October. But I don't know. I kind of pride myself in playing my best baseball at the end.
And first Mariners team, really historic, first Mariners team to make the postseason. The motto was refuse to lose, and that's exactly what the team meant. And as you mentioned, Norm, it had a larger implications when you're talking about was refuse to lose the franchise at the time. Right. As a player, what did you remember about? It was almost like the movie Major League with what was going on outside the clubhouse. About that, the vote came on September 19th, and at the time it was about a third were in favor and about 2/3 were against. And here were you guys right in the middle of it. Were you able to tune all that out in terms of what was going on and just stay focused and on the business at hand of trying to win that division?
Yes and no. We stayed focused enough to win the division. We stayed focused enough to to do what we had to do on the baseball field. We had numerous meetings with the good guys that were the upper level management of Seattle that wanted to keep baseball in Seattle, and were doing everything they could to keep it there. And there were some great people in that front office that really put it all out there to keep Seattle as a baseball town. And ultimately, through their work and through us winning ball games in such dramatic fashion and going to the playoffs, ultimately they had another vote where they expanded. I think they expanded the area. The team stayed there. Eventually the Kingdome got torn down, and they've got a beautiful field, as pretty as anything you'll ever see in Safeco Field.
Great ballpark.
It's a wonderful place to play.
It really is great ballpark. And with your October exploits, you had a big save that the Yankees series. What your memories about that postseason? A big save in Game 3 of that Yankee series for you, where you factored in pretty prominently.
I remember I threw a whole bunch of innings in that series.
No lack of work.
No, there was no lack of work. I mean, it was a 5-game series, and I think I threw 7 or 9 innings in the series, and I think I pitched 4 out of 5 games. I think I threw 3 or 4 innings in our first, maybe 3 innings in our first game. I do remember going to New York and losing the first 2 and leaving the stadium, and somebody asked Lou if he was worried about losing 2. He said, "No, we're going back home. We're going to win 3 at home." And sure enough, we did. That stadium and that city at that time was magical. We had refused to lose. If you were ever in that ballpark when all that was going on, they had the chant "Go Mariners." Bill the Beer Man, who's passed on, he's a folk hero in Seattle, because he's the one that really started the Go on one side of the stadium and the Mariners on the other side. I knew a lot of players on a lot of teams, pretty good friends with a lot of them. Not during the game. I hated them during the game.
Right. Between the lines.
I wanted to see him get hit by a truck during the game. But we were really had a lot of people that were really good friends, and they said, "Man, that's one of the most incredible things that make your hair stand up when you came into Seattle to play us the last 2 months of that 95 season."
Sure.
That the Seahawks football games are loud. That all started in the Kingdome. That started with the fans that came to Mariners games in the Kingdome. That's where the loudness came, and they're loud.
And they were loud. They were heard.
They are loud.
And similarities as you look back, and once again, when we talked last week, I said, "Gee, you're missing not one but 2 significant anniversaries. 30 years since the Nasty Boys in '90, and 25 refused to lose." Parallels. This will be like if you had the college blue book right now. Compare and contrast, if you will. 90 and 95. Similarities between the 2 teams, or were they vastly different, but ended up kind of in the same place?
Vastly the same. Vastly the same.
Yep.
In the fact that the majority of the guys on both of those teams cared about one thing, and it wasn't their stats. It wasn't how much they were getting paid. It wasn't where they were going or what they were doing. It was winning a ball game that night, and whatever they had to do once they got to the stadium to win a ball game that night. Doug Strange, what Doug Strange had to do one night, he's hit a grand slam to win a game for us in '95. What Alex Diaz had to do is come in and pick up the pieces when Junior broke his arm in center field. What multiple guys did that year on that team was teamwork, just like it was in Cincinnati when we won it in Cincinnati. If we would have been a little bit healthier, if it would not have taken everything we had to get to the playoffs down the stretch, don't know what we could have done. I think we played a Yankees team that I think we beat them on adrenaline. And man, we ran into Cleveland next, and we were kind of out of gas, and they were kind of better. So that's a bad combination.
Right. Exactly.
It's
lethal.
When you have to use your number 1 guy, Randy, in a playoff, a 1-game playoff to get to the playoffs, and then he has to come in relief out of the bullpen because the bullpen's so gassed, to win that series. By the time we get to Cleveland, we're out of gas, and they're better than us, and that's a horrible combination.
He came in to pick up you, I think, and that was his one relief appearance. Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and did a great job of it. Yeah.
It did. Another trivia question there for you. I was going to say, who's the only guy, he came in for you?
Yeah.
And an emotional end. I got to ask you, as an athlete, and as an athlete that has had his, obviously you still do have your eyes on the prize and what the object of all these games are. As Aaron the games,
only one.
Yeah, it did. There's only one.
Oh no, I think I know what you're going to ask. Are you talking about when the fans stayed and we came out?
Boy, I'll tell you, you get 3 degrees and you're using them all today.
Only one better than that.
Yep.
That was at that time, that was the most phenomenal thing I had ever experienced in sports.
Nobody left. Curtain call.
No, nobody left. None of the players left. We were down. We were pissed that we lost. We knew we were out of gas. We knew Cleveland was better. We tipped our hats to them. We came to the clubhouse and took a deep breath. And, kind of let some time go by to let it sink in. And Lou goes, man, nobody's left. We're like, the hell are you talking about? They always leave. They left in the 7th inning, and they got pissed that on their way home, the traffic was bad, and they had to listen to Doug Strange hit a grand slam in the 11th to win it. They always leave. He's like, they're still there.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. They're still there. And
wow.
When we went out, I don't know if anybody had left or if more people had come in. I don't know.
Yeah. Open the doors. Yeah.
But the stadium was full, and they were standing and they were cheering, and that was really cool. Really cool. Really cool.
And you mentioned your number 2 moment, and obviously, I guess the number 1 was winning the World Series, I guess.
Nope. Seattle's World Series number 3. Number 1 is 116 games in 2001 after the 9/11 attack, and us carrying that flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carrying that flag around the field was pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty cool stuff right there.
Yep.
And I've done a lot of stuff that's really cool in my career. I mean, I played with a lot of guys. I played with Ken Griffey Sr., and I used to help Junior do his homework. I played with Ken Griffey Jr. on 2 teams that were just unbelievably good. I played with Omar Vizquel as a shortstop. I played with Barry Larkin as a shortstop. I played with Cal Ripken as a shortstop. Probably 3 Hall of Fame shortstops right there.
Right. Just that position alone. Yeah.
Yeah, at that position alone. I played for Pete Rose. I got played on a Japan tour. I got to play in Venezuela. I got to play in Dominican. I got to go to Puerto Rico. I've got to do a lot of really, really cool things in baseball. And watching the way people treated us in '95 when we came back out for that standing ovation, that they'd probably still be there if they didn't make them go home. And then carrying the flag around the field in 2001. Yeah. Pretty cool to be involved in stuff like that.
And you mentioned about tough to top that. I would agree. I affected a very close friend of mine that I lost in 9/11, so that hits home. And
don't forget.
Yeah.
A lot of our country's forgetting. Don't forget how united we were.
Yes.
I mean, for everybody that listens to this podcast, and I don't care what color you are, I don't care where you're from, I don't care. You're an American.
Yep.
As united as we were the 3 or 4 days after that, we're not that anymore, and we need to get back to that. Don't know how we do it. We got some answers, throw them out there, but we need to get back to that.
No, indeed we do. That would certainly, I'll make the path will be a lot smoother if we can do it. We got to aspire to it. And just the final note I had on that season, you mentioned about what it took to win the division, coming all the way back. You mentioned about Griffey Jr., pretty significant player. People forget he was out from the end of May into August, was injured. Things might have been a little bit easier for you, Norm, if you'd had Junior around a little bit more to lean on.
Maybe. Yeah, you would think. Maybe. Yeah. Wow. But, I mean, that's the way baseball seasons go.
Yep.
Everybody's got a chance on opening day of spring training. By opening day of the season, half of those teams have lost what they thought was going to put them over the top and give them a chance. Somebody's gotten hurt in spring training. Somebody twisted a knee. Somebody blew out a shoulder. Justin Verlander of the Astros, where is he going right now? What's going on with him? And it happens every year. to multiple teams. So that's part of it. That's why, that's why the GMs you see that some of them that stay around, guys like Bob Quinn that was with us in Cincinnati that just did such a phenomenal job that when somebody went down, somebody stepped in and took his place, and we didn't really miss a whole lot.
Yeah.
Woody Woodward in Seattle when Lou was there, and you don't think of some of those players as being superstars, but they stepped in for superstars and continued to play and provide production at that position that let us get through it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In order to get, it's a long road to negotiate over the 6 months, 162 games to be able to be there on top. Following 1995, you remained in Seattle. You closed the next couple of years, and then as you mentioned about the opportunity to go on to Baltimore, and ended up briefly in Atlanta, and then to Tampa, and then back to the Reds for a time. But there was that mystical tug of you and Lou Piniella. You guys were kind of there was something cosmic going on between you and Lou. And as you've talked about, you ended up, the road led back to the Emerald City of Seattle in 2001 to be part of that 116 games.
Right.
Yeah.
He knew what he was getting, and I knew what I was getting. I struggled there from 98, last part of 97 to a lot of 98 and 99. Starting to get old. I was starting to lose a little velocity and started to try to generate velocity and to keep my velocity up there. Wasn't a really smart thing to do. And as I tried to overthrow and try to generate velocity and maintain velocity, I lost location. So, I ended up 95 in the middle of the plate instead of 93 on the corner. And that's not a good place to be.
Hitting the black, hitting the edges.
Yeah. I get back to Seattle and we got Brian Price there, who's, phenomenal pitching coach. I'm in spring training and he won't let me pitch. And I'm like, Brian, I got to pitch. I got to make this club. I don't know if I'm going to make this club. He's like, You're not going to make this club. If I let you go out there right now, I promise you're not going to make this club. So I'm the big league pitching coach. And what you got right now, you're not going to make this club. So we're going to keep working and we're going to keep working and we're going to keep working. When I think you're ready, I'm going to put you in there. And if you're not ready by the end of spring training, you're not going to make this club. It's just it's the way it is. Okay. He got my mechanics straightened out. He got me throwing the ball with velocity. He got me back to where I could locate my fastball, which was very important for me. I had a really good split, but it doesn't really do me any good to throw it 2-0. I need to be 1 and 2, 0-2, 1-2, 2-2 to make guys swing at that, where they have to swing at it. They either have to take it for a strike or they have to swing at it. And he just flat wouldn't let me go out there until I was ready. And then he said, okay, you're ready. And I went out there and I pitched my tail off in spring training and had a pretty good year. A lot of pressure was off me because Arthur Rhodes was our left-handed setup man. So,
right.
And he had a phenomenal year, and it allowed me to not be out there every day and not be used like I was used when it was Rob and I, or Arthur got used like that. And I was able to pick up the slack because physically I was older and I couldn't do it anymore. Arthur was not older. He was younger and he could do it. And he did it and he did it well and got paid handsomely for it. And I was there to pick up the slack on days that he couldn't pitch and to give him quality innings.
And you were part of, once again, that was another special bullpen. You mentioned you had Jeff Nelson, Rhodes, and Sasaki closing.
Sasaki, yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty special group. A little different than the Nasty Boys, but pretty damn effective to bring up 116 wins. Yeah.
Pretty effective. Kaz, not many people knew Kaz very well because he didn't speak a whole lot of English. I think he spoke more than a lot of people, but we used to have the boat races in Seattle on the big screen every night. Red, green, or blue. Red, green, or blue. Red, green, or blue. And Kaz and Ryan Franklin used to bet on the boat races. Not bet on them, but I think they bet on them, and whoever lost got a karate chop in the neck. And to this day, I don't remember whether it was Ryan or Kaz that was getting the answer, that was getting the winner before the game, and they were betting on it.
So it was all a setup. Yeah.
It was all a setup in the bullpen. So Jeff Nelson, Arthur Rhodes, Ryan Franklin, Kaz Sasaki, myself. And that was another bullpen where statistically might have been better than our bullpen in Cincinnati. Statistically, might have been better. But we had more fun in Cincinnati, but Seattle was a close second. We had a lot of fun down there. When you're successful and you're pitching good and you're on top of your game and you're coming in and shutting people down, it allows you to have fun. And we, Jeff Nelson, Kazusaki, myself, Arthur, the other guys down there, we were a fun-loving bunch of guys. We like to go out on the town. We like to go do this and do that. We had a blast down there, as well as Cincinnati.
As well as Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You also saw the beginning of a phenomenon that swept the country. It already swept another continent, exactly. But the legend of Ichiro was just beginning. Then, Norman, you had a ringside seat for that. You had the premier DH with Edgar Martinez of his time there, and you had a guy named Ichiro.
Yeah. The most remarkable thing I thought about Ichiro was he was not of big stature, but he played every day. Cal Ripken is a large man. He's especially for a shortstop. Yeah. Yeah, he's a big, strong individual. Much more built for the long haul of 162 games, I think. There's been talk about Ichiro being a selfish player and this and that. Maybe not. I don't know. He grew up playing a different game than we play here, a different style of game. They do things a little bit different. I get it. What I will tip my hat to him is he played every day. And when that bell rang, he was ready to go. He got beat up. He got drilled. He got, slide into second. He was covered in bruises. Didn't keep him out of lineup. He played every day. And you got to tip your hat, and I take him every day for a teammate. Every day. He puts it all on the field, and he plays every day.
Also, I got to ask you about a guy that I always thought as a baseball fan was maybe not given the credit for what he accomplished at the position day to day. Dan Wilson, your catcher.
Phenomenal back there. Yeah.
I don't think he ever got the credit either, Norm.
No, and he doesn't care about any of that. He's got his wife and about 9,000 kids running around that he's in love with. And
I didn't know that.
He's got a great family. Great family, great people. And I don't think Dan really cares about any of that heroics or all that. Yeah. Dan Wilson was, Dan and Joe Oliver behind the plate were guys that allowed me to be successful, because with a man on third, you can't throw a split in the dirt to strike a guy out. Yeah, guess what? When you got Dan Wilson and Joe Oliver behind the plate, you can throw whatever you want. I can throw a split, I can throw a spitter, because it's not getting by him. And you got a lot of hitters up there thinking, okay, man, we got nobody out, or we got one out, we got a guy on third. He can't throw that split in the dirt right now. And I did. And they swung at it because they didn't think it was going to be in the dirt. And Joe and Dan blocked it, and we walked off and left a guy on third.
Right. Exactly. And out of the inning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, you mentioned about, the inevitability for the athlete, with very few exceptions as far as age catching up, and some of the bumps and bruises linger. And, of course, the pitcher, it's all about your arm. And you ended up having, 4 shoulder surgeries before eventually retiring from the game. That must have been, as it is, I'm sure, for anybody, any athlete that enjoys the success at that level, must have been very hard to begin to make that transition for you.
No, it really wasn't. Because like we said earlier, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow.
Right.
And so
one day at a time.
The way we played the game is we left it all on the field every night. And, that was the first, 2002 was the first of 4 shoulder surgeries. I tried to come back after the first one. I tried to come back after the second one. I tried to come back after the third one. After the fourth one, Dr. Yoakum, from the Curlin Job Clinic in Los Angeles, Dr. Yoakum said, man, he goes, I've known you a long time, coming through the Angels and, coming in for this and that. And, you've always come in the locker room and talked to me. And when I was in the trainer room, we sat down in the trainer's office, had conversations about this and that and stuff not even related to baseball. He goes, man, I know you love to hunt. I know you love to fish. He goes, if you try to play again, you're going to tear your shoulder up so bad that you're not going to be able to do some of that stuff. You're not going to be able to play catch with your kids. You're not going to be able to do the stuff that you want to do when you're 50 or 55 or 60 or 80 or who knows how long you're going to live. He goes, I'm telling you right now, there's nothing left in there really but scar tissue. So I can repair it and make it functional, but I cannot repair it. And you're not going to find a doctor in this world that's not lying to you that says he can repair it and you can endure a major league season. There's not enough left in there. So, okay, I get it. Left it all on the field. Tried to come back from shoulder surgery 3 different times in a period of 2 or 3 years, and it didn't work. And when it's over, it's over. And hang your cleats up, give them to somebody else. Don't give up the uniform until they take it from you. Well, they took it from me because I couldn't play anymore, and it is what it is. And move on to the next adventure.
And great segue with the next adventure, because you did spend some time coaching, most recently about a decade ago, as the bullpen coach, but in Seattle. But then it became all about, heeding the doctors and preservation for what you can do, your quality of life, and what you can do for a lifetime.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's all about Norm Charlton's big league adventures. It just an opportunity to tell us about how you settled in and back in Texas.
Yeah, we do a little bit of deer hunting here. We do a little bit of dove hunting. We do some duck hunting, but mainly I run a charter boat. I run a bay fishing charter. That's my own business. We catch speckled trout, and redfish, and black drum, and flounder. Occasional sharks, which we don't like to catch, but all the customers love to catch sharks. I can take a kid out and he can catch a limit of redfish and a limit of trout, and he can be, pretty happy about it. I could take a kid out and he can catch 1 trout and 1 redfish and a shark, and he's happy as you can believe because he caught that shark. So we do bay fishing trips in the bay here, Corpus, right outside of Corpus Christi in Rockport, Texas. We've also got a 33-foot Blackfin Express that we do some offshore stuff. We fish some wahoo tournaments. We won a wahoo tournament, the Winter Wahoo Classic 2 years ago, with a 3-fish total of, I think we had a 75, a 78, and a 95-pound wahoo. We won that tournament for about $40,000. So it's still competitive. You're kind of relying on the fish a little bit more than your own skill, but you got to figure out where they are and try to go catch them. So we have a lot of fun with that. We run some charters, out there in the middle of the ocean, spend the night, 100, 150 miles offshore. So pretty cool stuff.
And very much, you've got your wife, you got your son, your daughter, and your parents, very much family man over in recent years. But also, I took a look at a piece from, was it Hurricane Harvey 3 years ago, and
right.
Not surprisingly, you're part of and really embedded and entrenched in a much deeper family and a deeper community now that you've
right.
settled into. And I read the article that they talked about how you, not surprisingly, Norm Charlton was coming out of the bullpen again in a much different cause to rally in the throes and the aftermath of the hurricane back 3 years ago.
I think I did, a little bit, and our family did a little bit. There was a lot of people here that did a lot more, more than I was willing to do, and God bless them. And we had fishing guides here that run airboats that our town took a direct hit, and 24 hours later, they had hooked up their boats and driven 100 miles to Houston because people needed help there. They left their wives and families. They made sure they were okay here. Man, they didn't have power. They, 3 or 4 families staying together. Eating cold food out of a cooler. They had ice, and they drove 100 miles and stayed there for a week, pulling people out of flooded waters, people that they don't know. You have black guys helping white guys. You had white guys helping black guys. You had Vietnamese helping everybody. You had Mexicans doing this and that. And, it was one of those things. And nobody cared what color you are. And nobody cared where you came from. What they cared about is you had an airboat and you could go help people get out of the flooded water. That's all they cared about. And that's what they did. And,
right.
My hat's off to a lot of those people here. But yeah, pretty neat community here we live in.
You've described it as a drinking village with a fishing problem, Rockport,
Absolutely.
Texas. Is that accurate, Norm?
It's pretty accurate. Yeah. It's a quaint little drinking village with a fishing problem. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what the town is built about, the sport fishing and the recreation of the beach and the fishing. That's kind of what the town revolves around. We're 30 miles to the northeast of Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi, a big port city, industrial port. We're a quaint little town, 7,500 people on a good day.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's been a lot of good days for you there from the sound of it. And you referenced it earlier. You're talking about the days after 9/11. It sounds like what you experienced 3 years ago in the aftermath of the hurricane is something that we do need more of in terms of everybody just
Absolutely
coming together.
Yeah.
Unifying.
I think one of the things in the middle of all of this that gets left out is the majority of the people in this country. And I mean the vast majority. I don't care if you're Italian, if you're Jewish, if you're Black, if you're Puerto Rican. All I care about is you're a good person and you're doing a good thing. And I think that's what most of the country cares about. It really is. Do we have some racial inequality in this country? Yeah, we do. Is it getting better? I don't know. I hope so. It might probably got worse in the last year, so I don't know. How do we fix it? I don't have the answers to that either. It's been here for a long time. It'll always be here. I can promise you the way to fix it is not rioting and looting. That's not the way to fix it. The way to fix it is not going out and shooting people randomly on the street. That's not the way to fix it. And in the majority, I think, of the people that live in your town and the majority of the people that live in my town would stop to help somebody change a tire if they needed it.
Right.
And that's just the way
Courtesy.
it is. And I think that gets left out, and I think that gets overlooked in the whole thing. We see everything on the media. You see people bickering about what party you're affiliated with and all that. And then the truth is 90% of mainstream America will go out of their way to help another fellow citizen. And I think that gets left out. And I don't think it should get left out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important.
Indeed. Going to ask you as we come down to the final outs here in the ninth inning with North Charlton. Just some of your thoughts on the game today. One of the things, we've talked about, your style was aggressive, as far as getting ahead in the count, throwing strikes, and a little bit of the fear factor, the intimidation. I mean, just pitching inside, Norm. You can't pitch inside anymore, and it's only going to get worse when the designated hitter is now going to apparently be adopted right across baseball the way that it is in the 60 games. Vastly different than your era.
So the game has been played pretty much the same way for a pretty long time. And the game has been pretty successful for a pretty long time. Here in the last 4 or 5 years, strikeouts are up, home runs are up. They're changing the game. The one thing that's not up is I don't think his attendance is up. And I'm not sure that ratings are up. And I'm not sure with the things that are going on right now in baseball. Starting an extra inning with a man on second. The video replays.
Yep.
Guys kneeling before a game. I think a lot of the stuff that's going on in baseball is going to leave a very, very sour taste in a whole bunch of people's mouths. The purists,
I agree.
They've got to be pulling their hair out right now.
Hmm.
You're going to move you move the fences back and you move the fences in. I get that. Tailor that to your team. The ground's crude waters makes the ground real hard when you got a speedy team. They make the real, like when Scott Erickson pitched for the Orioles, teams are coming to town when Scotty was pitching, that dirt in front of home plate was so soft, he threw all those sinkers. So you get high chop base hits. I get all that. That's part of the game shit. But starting the game starting extra innings with a run on second, I don't like that. I don't get it. To this day, I cannot believe that a group from the Hall of Fame or that the Players Association would agree in any form or fashion to a lot of these changes. I just don't get it. I don't like it, and I don't understand it.
You mentioned there was 2 or 3 items on my list that you got to, and that was one of them. In particular about the gimmick. It's like a game show now with the runner on second. The other one is now the 3-batter minimum that they've tried to push through for relievers coming into the game. There's another rule that they're working with now.
It's not Nintendo. It's not Atari. It's not a PlayStation game. It's not.
Right.
We make mistakes as players. Umpires make mistakes. That's part of the game. That's why over a 162 game season, you know what? John Doe umpire is going to make a mistake, and it's going to go against you in the 32nd game of the year. And Jim Bob is going to make a mistake in the 56th game, and it's going to go for you. So
Right.
over the course of the whole season, those things are going to even out, and those things happen. Why are we losing fans? The games are too long. Well, if the games are too long, and we're going to go to a 3-batter minimum because we don't want the switch in and out, why do you allow a manager to go, hold on, I want to look at the replay? Yeah, I'm going to argue it after his dugout tells him, yeah, we want to argue it.
Right.
Or, no, I don't want to argue it. How about we turn off all the video 30 minutes prior to the game and don't let anybody go see the video until after the game's over?
Right.
How about we don't let a pitcher get taken out of the game and immediately go to the video room and see where that pitch was and come back out and holler at an umpire because he made a bad call? How about we not let a hitter immediately go after he makes an out or hits a home run, go into the video room right there at the bottom of the stairs and use that video stuff? How about we not let that lead to sign stealing? How about we not let that lead to lengthening the game because the manager can look down in the tunnel if somebody's down there and he gives them a thumbs up or a thumbs down? How about just eliminate that stuff 30 minutes prior to the game and you don't get to look at it again until after the game? I mean, hell, Babe Ruth didn't have that stuff, and it was a pretty damn good game back then.
Yeah, indeed. That's one thing they're adjusting to right now. I've already noticed with the 60 games that they don't have that video availability, and well, deal with it. It was something that was dealt with for over 100 years.
Yeah, get rid of it. Deal with it. The video has made. I remember when I was coaching in 2008, guys could sit on the plane and be on their iPad. Let's say they're going to face Joe Kelly of the Boston Red Sox. They can sit on their iPad on the plane on the way to Boston, and I really like him now, by the way. I'm a big Joe Kelly fan.
I figured he might be a favorite. He would have been a wild guess for me.
Yeah, I really am a big fan of his. But they can sit there and they can watch the last 30 at-bats they've had of Joe Kelly on their iPad. And that technology is awesome. Okay? But do your homework. Use it before the game. And when the game starts, go out there and just pray that you're facing somebody like Tom Browning. You have a 150 an hour and 56-minute game. Everybody leaves the stadium and the fans are happy, and man, what a great game. And you weren't sitting there for 3.5 hours in the game that ends up 16-14 because chicks dig the long ball, but attendance is down. I don't get it.
And the ball's been in play about 20% of the time instead of 80% of the time. It's
horrible.
Yeah.
It's a horrible product right now.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's just gotten worse. The last thing I got to say, and you've alluded to this, is it as simple? Now, maybe I'm simplifying this too much, but I'm talking to a guy that's got a considerable big league resume to just try to institute something along the lines of a pitch clock to get the game. I mean, in football, there's a delay of game and there's a penalty flag if you can't get the playoff in time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be as simple as trying to implement a pitch clock to get the game moving?
Yeah, yeah, it should be. It should be. The Players Association and the Major League Baseball, the owners group, should be able to sit down, and the owners should be able to go, hey, guys, we got a problem. Attendance are down. Our ratings are down. Why? We need to speed up the games. So Players Association, we'd appreciate it if you go tell your guys. Look, one of y'all's guys was one of the worst about it. Nomar Garciaparra had to adjust his gloves every time. It used to drive me nuts. I'm like, dude, if you don't get in the box, the bar's going to be closed before I can get there. Are you kidding me? Get in the box. You don't need to adjust your gloves every time. But as the games take longer and longer and longer, and attendance goes down, and viewership on radio and television goes down, it costs the players money. Yeah. So it ought to be a really simple thing. The owners ought to say, hey, guys, we need your help speeding up the game because it's going to cost you money in the long run. It should be simple. Put in a
just put it in and try and have it enforce it. I mean,
yeah, and that's also one of those things that the game's been pretty good for a long time. I'm kind of against all of those changes. I think it should be real simple. Hey guys, attendance going down, viewership's going down, money's going down. It's going to hit you in your pocket. That ought to be real simple. Get on the mound and throw the ball. Get in the box and hit the ball. That's what the game's about. It's not about me, I.
Absolutely the case. Well, we can only hope. I mean, we're of the same generation, and I mean, I've been a 30-plus year Red Sox season ticket holder. I'm probably at Fenway, with the exception of this summer, Norm, about 30 times a year. And I don't know. The game doesn't bear any resemblance to the game that I fell in love with, and can only hope maybe that something good's going to come out of what's happening now for the future of the game, because I think they're going to have to take a hard look at the future of the game right now in terms of how it's presented, how it's marketed.
I totally agree with that. You know, we had the sabermetrics come in that there's huge value in that. There's huge value in the fact that it doesn't really matter how a guy gets on base. If he gets on base a bunch, then you want that guy on your team. You know what's weird? This guy, he got on like 140 times he got on base, and 70 of them were on errors. I don't really care. If he's done it 5 years in a row, I don't care how he gets on base. I want him to get on base. But there's got to be a blend between the sabermetrics and the traditional scouts and the way the game is played and the product that goes on the field, because somewhere in that sabermetrics equation, you can't say, man, the guy hits a lot of home runs and he drives in a lot of runs, but he strikes out a bunch and the ball's only in play 29% of the game.
Right.
We're losing attendance.
Yep.
We're losing attendance. We're losing fans. And look, when my parents don't take me to the game at 9 to see Juan Marichal, maybe I'd do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those parents right now that aren't going to the games because it's a 3.5-hour game, and parents can barely sit through a 3.5-hour game, much less a kid, and the kids don't enjoy it, they can do something else.
Yeah. They
play soccer, they play lacrosse, they play hockey, they become accountants. They do something else besides play baseball.
Yeah.
That's not good for our game.
No, indeed it's not. Amen to that. The same with me, thinking of making my first trip to Fenway, and it happened to be 1967 and the Impossible Dream year, and with my grandfather, and just establishing a love for the game at an early age. And you're right, the parents can't even stay for 3.5 hours, and they can have an adult beverage, Norman. They can't even stay for 3.5 hours. That's not a good thing.
Have a $14 adult beverage.
That's right.
But nonetheless, yeah.
A princely sum.
Right.
Yeah, it's not good.
Unfortunately, you have those great memories of your dad and your grandfather and all that going to baseball games. A lot of kids that don't have that because people aren't going to the games. They're not going to the games. And when they stop going to the games, their kids stop being interested. And we lose our minor leagues at 8 years old.
Yeah.
We lose those kids,
Mm-hmm. Not healthy. Not healthy. Yep.
Nope.
Yep. Well, I guess I'll leave it to Lou Piniella, and talking about Norm Charlton. He said he could get you in 3 different ways. Tribute to his stuff. You through the mid-90s, he hit strikeouts, the split finger that you've talked about, which when you got that one over, or even when it was out of the strike zone, was unhittable, according to Lou. The fact that you love to compete in the playoff atmosphere, and as Lou described it, that was the perfect environment for him, was the playoff atmosphere. Thus the fact that I opened by calling him Mr. October. And I thought Lou's comment on the play with Mike Scioscia, pitchers shouldn't do that, but that's what made him great. And I was blessed to have a guy like Norm Charlton. And I really can't add anything to that other than I was blessed to have the opportunity to talk to Norm Charlton today. And I know, Norm, when you retired, you said there's nothing else that I could have done, and I couldn't have played the game any harder. And I think that speaks volumes about your legacy in the game, and how you played the game with us today, Norm. You played very well here in the games people play.
Look, I consider it a privilege to still be able to talk about this. I'm honored that people still want to talk to me. I consider it a privilege to be able to have played with Lou Piniella and consider him a friend of mine, and probably the second biggest father figure I had. I mean, going through a major league season, the trials and tribulations that players go through, and it's really nice to be able to have somebody that you can go sit down in their office and go, Skip, I got a problem. What do I do? What do I do? And he's been through it, and he knows, and he gives you really good advice. Maybe the only time he gave me good advice, but we disagreed on some things, and it is what it is. But it's a privilege to play for the man.
Pete Rose, the advice might have been a little different, like maybe a tip in the 7th.
Yeah, Pete was pretty awesome too. He really was. He's pretty awesome to play for, and I still talk to Pete, to this day.
You do? Yep.
Yeah, we still go and do a bunch of stuff in Cincinnati, and my wife and kids have got to meet him and all that stuff, and We're in the back room of CEI Sports, Charles Soto's place up in Cincinnati, signing autographs, and my wife is kind of peeking around the corner like with her phone. That's Pete Rose. It's Pete Rose. Yeah, honey, I know it's Pete Rose. It's my manager. Pete asked me if he could have permission to tell a dirty joke in front of her. I said, Pete, it's my wife. What do you think? Absolutely. You know me. Probably nothing's going to embarrass her. She's my wife. So, yeah, pretty lucky and pretty blessed to still be talking about baseball, that people are still interested in talking about it, and that my opinion may be of value to somebody, but really blessed to have been able to play with the guys and do the things that I did in the game.
Yeah.
When you hear the guys say baseball been very, very good to me, baseball, if I would have never made a dime playing this game, the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Mm-hmm. Being able to play the game and having the experiences. Man, I grew up in Texas. I don't know what the East Coast is like. I get to walk around in AA with Rob Dibble, and he gets to explain to me who his Civil War statues are. I'm like, well, they're the different guys than we have down south, and and we get to laugh and joke about that. And I get to get in a helicopter and fly from Southington to land at Shea Stadium. The experiences that I have.
Meal. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The experiences that I have playing this game, like getting to sit down and watch Gangsters on TV and then show Spark Steakhouse in New York, and to know that I've eaten there a bunch of times is really cool. And
Big Paulie. Yep.
Yeah. Most people don't get to experience stuff like that, but maybe once in their lifetime. And it's an everyday deal for us as baseball players.
That's right.
We get to go play Pebble Beach if we want to. Baseball has been phenomenal for me, for my family, for my friends. You just can't explain to people what it means to you.
Indeed, well said. My only regret, we try to make everybody in the games people play feel at home. I had bought a Rice baseball T-shirt the one time I was in Houston. I couldn't find it. The best I could do for you today is
I saw that. That's old school pitchfork. I saw that when you.
I got my Pearl Jam. I don't know how the Major League Baseball let Pearl Jam get away with that, but I'm a big Pearl Jam fan, and we got with the Mariners logo. They must have made a deal with MLB.
Awesome, perfect. Yeah,
that one. Rob.
Yeah, we got to meet those guys too. That's one of the perks of the game, getting to meet guys.
That's
like
right.
That. Yeah, awesome.
That's right. And you got to spend 7 years with Rob Dibble as a roommate and live to tell about it. So. Not
replaceable at all. You can't make that stuff up.
Exactly. Norm, thanks so much for joining us. Really a pleasure. And when you get to Boston, you're going to come by the Fours, and you're going to have a cup of, we'll get you a bowl of clam chowder on us here, and maybe an adult beverage.
Has it been there forever?
The Fours has been here for over probably getting close to about 40 years now. The Fours, right there by the Boston Garden.
I can't believe it's a bar in Boston that I'd not been to.
That you hadn't been to. I was going to say.
No, I really can't believe it.
Well, Daisy Buchanan's isn't here anymore, so that's unfortunate.
I used to go there all the time and eat at Chow Bella right upstairs.
Yep.
Yep. I will. If we get to Boston, which we've got 2 younger kids, so we probably will one day, because they want to go by and listen to them say cheers.
Yes, there you go. We can arrange that.
So we will definitely make a stop in the Fours.
Look forward to that, Norm. Thanks so much. You played well here today on the Games People Play. Our guest, Norm Shelton, not so nasty overall. We thank Norm for joining us here, Season 1, Episode 10 of the Games People Play. Thank you to Norm, and thank you to Andy Bernstein, as always, my executive producer, Todd and Kiwan out in Seattle, and, of course, all of our friends here at the Fours. Once again, #1 sports bar and restaurant in the United States. So, for the Games People Play, this is Bernie Corbett saying, play the game well, everybody.